All right, good morning, guys. What I'm going to be showing you today is another graphics app called Sketchpad 5.1. This is a really cool and free graphics software that you can use on your Chromebook and other devices. Now, you can access Sketchpad by either using the Google Classroom link that I left below, or you can go open up a new browser and type in Sketchpad, SKETCHPAD, then .io. And that's going to take you to the Sketchpad main page. Now, it may come up with a pop-up window for the first time. You can just hit the X and close that. Now, we're going to open up a new image. I already have one in the background here. But hit the plus sign in the lower corner. And I'm going to set this to inches. Now, we're going to set this to 8.5 by 11. This will be the same size. If you have a printer at home, you'd be able to just take your image and print it and it would be the same size. If you are creating for online graphics, you could just create it to whatever size that you want, or there's custom sizes up on top here. I'm going to hit create. All right, so this is the main user interface. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you have your tools. You can expand or collapse by tapping on it. You have 3 tools on the top. You have a select, crop and resize, and zoom for magnifying. Now, right underneath the arrow tool is one of your art tools. You can click on a tool and it brings down a multiple option of different tools. So I clicked on calligraphy and I hit the side arrow. I have the option for pen, paintbrush, line. We're going to take a look at a couple of them, but not all of them. Some of these you might just experiment with. That's kind of part of the fun of this program. It's just doing a small amount at a time and seeing what they do. You won't break it. So for instance, I'm just going to do the calligraphy, which is what was selected by default. So if I click and hold, it creates a shape. So you can change the tool by expanding the arrow. I'll just start with a pencil. So you can see when I draw, it makes a line. You can change the size of the line. If you grab the slider here, you can get a preview of how thick the line is. Now, it is a lot easier to draw with a mouse than the touchpad. Now, if you click where it says outline, you can change the color of your line. If you look over here, there's also options for opacity. So opacity is how transparent it is. Now you can click and hold. You can make it more see-through. If you want it to be off, you just click on it and it'll put a line through it. I'm going to set it back to 100%. Now for the colors, you also have an option for gradients. So a gradient draw is a gradual transition from one color to another. Now if you notice, it is right now trying to fill in my shape. I can click on this and change this to a color if I'd like. There's patterns as well as radial fills. So if I know I want this pattern here, if I draw another shape, it will fill in with a pattern. Now if I just want a line with no fill, just single click on it, you can see I'll put a line through it. So now if I draw a line again, it will be empty. Now you see there's one here option for paint in layer. So we'll switch to the paintbrush and I'm going to set this to a solid color. I'll just pick blue. Now, right now, if I were to color or paint, it would cover everything up. Now, if I just hit this toggle here for paint onto layer, now if I go to paint inside this triangle, you notice how it goes behind it, it goes onto that layer. Or it goes under it in this case. You can see the difference here. The line tool is another tool that is really powerful. You can click to make line segments. Now, once I get to an endpoint, it can close the path, which makes it more of a solid shape. So I have a perfect shape. Now, if you click and then click and hold, you can drag or draw multiple curved lines as well. I'll click again to close the path. Now, using that trick we just used before with the paintbrush, I'm going to switch colors so we can see it. If I click pink on the outside, or if I click the toggle paint into layer, well, it's supposed to, we can see one underneath it. With the paint tool as well, you can also change the size, but you can also make it more blurry. So if you're creating a background, this might be a really easy way to create a background. The one thing that's very powerful about this program is that each object or click you make becomes a layer. So if I use my selection tool, I can quickly grab one of my earlier shapes and rearrange it. You can also resize them by grabbing the corner handle. Okay, the next tool I wanted to show you is the shape tool. So it's marked by a star. So I can quickly just draw a star. I can change the fill just like the painting or other tools. It gives you a preview of what it looks like. Now, if I draw, here's my other star. Now, if I wanted to change, now if you notice it went onto the background, that is because I had paint onto layer selected. Now, if I make another star, I can now move it. Now you can always change the settings of an object. So if I wanted to change my fill, see what it looks like, you can quickly change your objects. Now if you want to delete a shape, just hit after it's selected, hit the backspace. So you can quickly delete all your objects. Or you can left click and select all your shapes to delete them. Now the shapes on the bottom layer are painted onto the background, so those I cannot just click and delete. Now many of the shapes have different options. So you can experiment with different sliders and see how they can affect each object. The type tool allows you to add text to an object. You can change the font. Where fonts are different ways that type can be written. Sometimes different fonts might be appropriate for different settings. If I like how this Bubblegum Sands looks, and click on it, and then it changed it. Now if I want to change That's still chewy. So I have to have it selected first. And you can also change your fill and your outline for letters as well. So let's find a cool gradient here. So you can experiment and see all the different ones. Now I'm going to put an outline to this one. I'm just going to set it to black. You can also change the line width. Now this particular one, oops, you can also change the outlines to gradients as well. For each of the fonts, you can also adjust line height, compositions where it is on there, how far apart letters are, or even word spacing, just like you can in Google Docs. You can also add clip art. If you create an object in another graphics program, you can also import that. You can do a search. So I have quite a few different options. Look for a dragon. Now it's very large. In this case, I'm going to grab the handle and shrink it. We can also adjust the opacity for any objects. You can adjust how transparent it is. The vector fill will fill in a large area at a time. So just like the other objects, you can quickly create a gradient background or a solid. You can adjust how the colors look by grabbing the little colored sliders. So if you want a lot of purple, drag it more over. Or a little less, it's up to you. The zoom up on the top, you can magnify your areas or zoom out. So you can see now the full entire 8.5 by 11 paper. Now if I want to center it, I'm going to click on that. All right, the next thing you want to see is the layers. So the layer is on the left-hand side, looks like a stack of papers. Now everything that we have on the screen right now is creating its own layer. So the clip art, which is the dragon, you see it gets selected. You can toggle if it's visible or not by hitting the eye. So if I click on the eye, it gives you the option to hide it. It's not deleted. So sometimes you might want to see what it looks like without an object, without actually deleting it. And just turn it back on by toggling it. That fancy text and the background. Now if I were to go back up to my tools and to draw a shape, I'm going to use the line tool to make a couple of shapes. It's going to make a square. Now right now the fill is set to none. I want to change that box I just made. I want to have it make this one blue with a black outline. And I want to make that outline a little thicker. There, that's better. All right, now I want to duplicate this. So you can either right click or you can use 2-finger tap on your touchpad. This will bring up a menu of different options. So I want to duplicate it and make another square just like it. So I'm going to create another square. I'm going to change this one to red, just so I can show you how layering works. So right now I have 2 boxes and my dragon in the background. Now I want to put my red at the bottom. So there's a couple things you could do. You could right click or 2-finger tap. You could send backwards, or you can use your layers tool. So this particular one, you can also change the name of a selected layer. So if you double tap on it, red square. Do the same thing to this one. Let's select it, and then you can see it select turn yellow, blue square. This is my dragon. All right, so I want my red square on the bottom. So you can left click and drag it underneath. Now if I were to move it, you can see how my red square is underneath. Now you can also, remember, change your transparencies. So I could click on my blue square, go back up to my tools, and I can change that opacity. I'm going to put about halfway, so it almost becomes like a window. So if you're making glasses or wanting to make transparent objects, sunglasses is a great way to do it. So you can still see through your object. Now I can drag this either using the layers like I just showed you, or I can use your right click. So I could send this backwards or send to back. So now it's way on the bottom. I didn't want it quite that far. I wanted it in front of the red square, so I could send forwards. You can see it's still below. One more time. And now you can see that the layering is really powerful. So you can reposition your objects. Your history is on another option here. It will do every single click that you made. So you can go backwards to a move that you made. Now, if I want to go back this far, I could. If I were to continue forward, this history is gone. You would have to recreate that. So I'm just going to click back to the top, and then you can see that all my steps are still there. This is a really also important tool to know, the undo button. So let's say I wanted to add some artwork to it and I was not at all happy with what I did. So I'm just going to go to Paint. And I want to paint. Oh, I don't want to do that. Oh no. What I could do is hit the undo button and then it's gone. Now another keyboard shortcut is to hold the Control key and hit Z. That also will undo. That's a really trick to make. You can go forward if you make a mistake and didn't mean to undo it. Lower on the left-hand side, we have our new button if you wanted to make a new document. Open if you wanted to add a picture in. Or export. Once you finish your artwork, we're going to be using this to export it or save it out of this program. And the settings button, it gives you some different options. If you want to save your artwork into the Google Drive, that's not a bad option to have. It will ask you to sign in with your Google account. And you can hit allow. And then we'll auto save it as well. This will be our tutorial for today. We will be showing you next class how to add in pictures and start to create the artwork that we'll be making for our project this week. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the office hours, or you can send me a message. Thank you very much.